Hey everybody, it's Bronco from Apex Vaulting. Another one of these weekly videos. Today I wanted to talk about something that I'm actually going to tweet out soon. I'm going to make the following tweet. You can't expect full-time results with part-time effort. I'm going to say it again. You can't expect full-time results with part-time effort. Now let's dig a little deeper into that statement. I think oftentimes I see, let's talk about from a coach's perspective on athletes. I see athletes sometimes that, in the pole vault world, they may not be spending enough time practicing the vault. They may not get enough sessions in every week. Then I'm sure even if we're talking about a high school coach or college coach, you may notice that some of your athletes maybe are not training as often as you would like them to, or not training with enough intensity, whether it's in the weight room or doing sprint practices. And yet, these athletes are sometimes upset about their results. I always tell people, at Apex specifically, we have a once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week option. Look, I have some people, they come in once a week, they enjoy pole vaulting, especially a lot of times our adult demographic. They come in once a week, that's their one day a week. They get to, maybe not make dinner that night and just get a workout in, jump a little bit, have the camaraderie, and they enjoy that. And even at the high school level, I have some athletes that they might be seasonal. They only come in during winter and spring. They come in once a week. They enjoy pole vault, but that's the time they've allotted for it, and they're happy with the result. But sometimes we get people that are unhappy with that result that they're getting with that amount of time put in, and there's a disconnect. I think as coaches, we need to do a better job of setting expectations of what is required to get the results that athletes are looking for. I think a mistake sometimes we make as coaches even is maybe talking about that star athlete that got big improvements in a short amount of time, but they're that star athlete, they're that stud. So that's not really a proper expectation. So we need to set that expectation of what is full-time effort? What are full-time results? What is part-time effort? What is part-time results? What can I expect? Especially this time of year, I think at Apex, we have athletes that have been training since last spring, especially if I think about my high school demographic. They train throughout the summer, they train throughout the fall. We also started doing these strength classes, and lifting has always been a major part of Apex, but we started doing some strength classes and got a bunch of new athletes doing that. So they started doing some training blocks with our lifting, and they're starting to see some amazing results because they're doing what I would consider more of a full-time effort. They're the athletes that are coming in 2-3 times a week. They're the athletes that are doing our strength and conditioning program. So now, 3+ months into that, they're starting to get some full-time results from that full-time effort that they have put in on the front end, meaning before the season even started. Then on the flip side, this time of year, we see a lot of athletes coming into Apex for the first time, which is great. But I think sometimes they look at someone that might even be a high school teammate of theirs, but they've never been at Apex, and be like, wow, look at, Johnny's jump. He's gotten so much better. Right, but it didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen after a week of practice. In fact, these last 2 weeks, I've had the conversation with athletes about, look, don't worry about the first meet. It's not about the first meet. Any significant improvement you're going to make in your jump is going to take time, and we're trying to set the stage for later in the season. Because if you're not willing to put the time in up front, give that full-time effort, then you won't get that full-time result at the end of the season. So you've got to kind of buy in, do the hard work now so that you can see the result later. And I think, again, as coaches, we've got to do that work of setting expectations. But now, let's again go back to that statement. Can't expect full-time results with part-time effort. I think sometimes as coaches, we don't realize we're not putting in that full-time effort. And what exactly does that mean? Well, I think if you're a pole vault coach, you've got to be putting time in to address all the facets of the vault. That means you've got to know what proper running form is. You've got to be digesting information about running form and about some of the greatest sprinters throughout history. How did those coaches address running form? What are the drills that we need to do? What am I looking for? Are you reading articles? Are you consuming content? Are you reading books about running form? What are your thoughts on the pole carry? Where did you get those thoughts from? Who are you learning from? I mean, I would always point people in the direction of like Vitaly Petrov and Sergey Bubka. I think they really fleshed out a system and a great book to read. I mean, listen, even if you don't follow this methodology, I think a great book to read is Beginner to Bubka. Alan Launder did a great job of kind of like explaining everything from the ground up in the vault. You know, are you putting in that effort really learning the sport? Have you designed a warm-up? Have you designed drill progressions that will lead people from step 1 to step 10 or whatever? You know, are you putting in that work? Do you as a pole vault coach, again, since pole vaulting is a total body movement, upper body's important, lower body's important, what do you know about strength and conditioning? Do you know how to train athletes? What are some accepted training protocols? Do you know how to train for speed? Do you know how to use strength to increase speed? Do you know how to program sprinting? Do you have any idea about this stuff? Because if you're not spending the time as a coach to develop your coaching, you can't expect, again, full-time results with part-time effort. And the thing is, like, sure, if you know a little bit about the pole vault and you get a decent enough athlete, they'll jump high enough, whatever that means in your area, in your state, for your level in the high school or even college. But are you really getting the most out of your athletes? Are you helping them to continue to progress? So I think whether you're an athlete or a coach, you have to understand the effort you're putting in and understand what result you will get. I think also, just like the athlete that is maybe not training that often, as a coach, you know, I don't think you should ever be walking around puffing your chest out like you know everything. But certainly if you're giving a part-time effort, I don't know that you could walk around and tell people you know what you're doing. I think you should be rather honest about where you are in your development as a coach and what you can provide. I've certainly heard it from some athletes that have come to Apex over the years. They've had a very honest high school coach that was like, hey, listen, I can give you a couple things, get you off the ground, get you started on this pole vault thing, but if you want to get better, you might want to go to a pole vault club. You might want to go to this place or that place. They have a lot more for you. I think you just have to know, you know, how much effort you're putting in, know what your possible result is going to be, and be honest with yourself about that. Because especially like when I think about patterns, even for me as a coach, like once I got to a certain point, I was like, okay, if we don't add strength and conditioning, there's only so much I can help. Because even some of the technical stuff that you have to do in the vault, as Alan Launder, I mentioned him earlier, as Alan Launder wrote in his book, Beginner to Bubka, what is technically desirable must be physically possible. So I knew if I didn't start to incorporate strength and conditioning, there were going to be limitations with a lot of my athletes who didn't have the prerequisite strength or speed to accomplish the positions or techniques that I wanted them to. So I had to add that in. Obviously running form, that became important. I studied, Carl Lewis and Tom Tellez. I studied Ben Johnson and Charlie Francis. Then even with strength and conditioning, from Charlie Francis, Mike Boyle's a big name for me. He's a strength and conditioning coach in the Boston area. Then Westside Barbell with Louis Simmons. There are many influences in what I have done over the years as a coach, and I kept adding. And I still add today. I still consume content. I still read articles. I still find new ways of developing strength, speed, add wrinkles to our drill progressions, our warm-up. I mean, that's one of the things that I'm always kind of excited about. When someone comes in who hasn't been here for a year, they're surprised. It's like things are a little different. There's some new wrinkles here and there. So, in closing, understand, I'm trying to help you understand the expectation. You cannot get full-time results with part-time effort. Make sure you understand that, and depending on the result you're looking for, you may have to start working harder in certain areas. All right, have a good week, everybody.